Hi, this is Eric Rush with AOPA Flight Planning Products team, and we want to introduce you to Andy Matthews and John Burnside from iFlightPlanner. They are the founders of iFlightPlanner, and we're just going to give a quick introduction, a little bit about iFlightPlanner and the history, and answer a couple questions that we're seeing since the launch of iFlightPlanner. So Andy, tell me, iFlightPlanner, we were talking earlier, if iFlightPlanner goes back to 2008, was it?
Yeah, it does. John and I were roommates in undergrad at the University of Michigan. And at the time, previous summer, I had earned my private pilot's license, and just kind of through that process, had a few ideas of how to improve that process. And with John's technology background, we sat down and literally, as the story goes, hashed a couple of ideas out on the back of a cocktail napkin. And, that was the fall of 2008. We ended up launching iflyplanner.com in February of 2009. And, here we are 10 plus years later and continuing to build and grow.
Wonderful. Yeah, so it's obviously a mature product, and I've had the opportunity to play with this now for several weeks prior to the launch of it to our AOPA members, and I really like the interface. One of the nice things I think our members will continue to enjoy is we have a product that they can still use their desktop or laptop computer with a nice large display and a nice keyboard and mouse. So tell us kind of about the importance and why you felt that that was an important sort of aspect, given their iPads are all over the place, kind of why keep the, the large display and keyboard mouse interface?
Yeah, and I think that was a bit of fortunate timing as well. When we started building the product, the web-based platform was really our only option. Apps hadn't really found their way into the cockpit as of yet. And when we look at the timing of it, we launched iflyplanner.com for the first time. Our Steve Jobs announced the iPad about 6 weeks later. So we had just invested in this initial launch, working with our business partners and the like to build this really comprehensive web-based platform. And from there, then we were able to move into the app-based product on the iPad. So when we look at this platform, and as it was initially launched, we were leveraging that large display that many of us have, whether it be on a laptop, in our home office, at the FBO, wherever we kind of like to really dive into our planning. And I think that's what's really unique, is we've always maintained that platform and continue to invest in it because of the unique ability to be able to really dive into planning at a level of detail that, yes, is available on mobile platforms, but it's just a heck of a lot easier to do it when you've got your full monitor, keyboard, and mouse available to you.
Absolutely, absolutely, and I feel the same way. I mean, I was an early adopter of iPads and different EFB apps that are out there, but I still prefer planning. Especially for a flight that I haven't flown before, I still like sitting down at the computer and having a beverage and just taking my time on a nice big display where I can see much more information all at the same time. And you talked about something else there, and I believe John could probably fill us in a little bit here, is early on being a cloud-based app, having all the information saved in the cloud, which makes it really easy to access from wherever you are. John, can you kind of fill us a little bit on there?
Certainly, yes. And so our technology background from the early 2000s was really in web application development. And that's where we started, and we had a core suite of software that we were able to build on top of to produce iflyplanner.com and introduce it. And as Andy mentioned, that 6 weeks later, Steve Jobs introduced the iPad. In 2011, then we were really the first to bring data that would flow directly from a web-based planner down to your iPad for use out in the field. And so, we felt that was such a natural use of the two technology platforms. They're very different. They require completely different code bases, which is challenging at times because you're essentially rewriting the same software on two different platforms, or three if you start to talk about Android, et cetera. But the ability of the cloud, and I know that word is cliche and it gets thrown around a lot in technology these days, but the ability of that is really quite incredible. And so for our software, for our members, they have the peace of mind that if they plan on the web and they go use it on the road, or in the cockpit on their device, But that data then is stored still on the web. So say you lose your iPad or forget it, or it just crashes, or you forget it at the FBO or at an airport or wherever, you can pick up somebody else's iPad. And with our technology, you can sign in, and literally within a second or two of it syncing your data, you're right back to where you were before. And so that's really a unique piece that we offer that gives pilots a ton of peace of mind.
Right, and so you touched on something there we should probably take a minute and clarify is you've created a special version, what we call iFlightPlanner for AOPA. And that is a special version that was created for AOPA members, and it's offered, of course, free of charge as part of their AOPA membership. But there are upgrade possibilities. So this is something we never had before, with the old legacy product. But now, based on the person and what type of flying and what type of features they want out of a system, there is some way to get a little bit more. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. I think the first and foremost thing I'd say, and something that we learned really early on, is that pilots run a wide spectrum. They really run a gamut of how they use these devices and how they use the software. From your weekend blue skies Saturday afternoon, let's go get the proverbial $200 hamburger pilot, all the way up to your power user who wants every last bell and whistle, who is doing all their homework and all their research and is on top of every last little bit of piece of information they need. And so our goal all along has been to provide a software platform, web and mobile, that really provides that flexibility to them so that they have the opportunity to choose what works best for them. So that's been so crucial in our development, is to create that balance and give them that flexibility to do what they need to do. So to that end, yes, we have iFlightPlanner for AOPA, iFlightPlanner Core, and iFlightPlanner Premium. And what those allow a user to do is really select what level of software features are best for them. And so we really feel like we have tried to, based on 11 years of feedback from pilots, is really trying to identify, and it's not perfect, it's never going to be perfect in terms of there's going to be a pilot that falls somewhere in a middle there that says, this version's not quite what I need, and this version's maybe more than I need. So you can never be perfect, but that's been our goal, is to recognize that spectrum that pilots sit on and know that we're trying to provide an option all the way along the route for all of them.
Right, absolutely. And one of the things that we're going to dive in a little bit deeper, just so everybody knows, is we are planning a live stream. We're still early in discussions of doing a live stream. And during that live stream, we want to explore a little bit deeper than what we've been talking about here, but also to actually do some live kind of how-tos. We've been getting a lot of questions, from users as they make that transition from the legacy flight planner over to iFlightPlanner. Some things work just slightly different. And I know I got tripped up on a couple things because I always said that learning something new is a challenge. Perhaps harder is unlearning something old. You have that muscle memory and you have those like, well, this is the way I've always done it. So there's always just a little bit of a curve there. And I think with the live stream that we want to do, we can really spend some quality time to kind of demonstrate some of the differences, and 99% of the things we could do in the legacy planner, we can do in iFlightPlanner. It just goes about it slightly different. But I think overall members are going to really enjoy using the product. I know I have. It's been a great tool so far. I'm very pleased with it. And I think it's going to fit the bill for a lot of people.
And Eric, one quick note there for the listeners too, that's been cool for us, is that with a large set of new eyeballs on our software, it kind of forces you to get better too. And so, the patterns start to emerge about what are people stumbling on, what are people saying, well, this doesn't quite work the way I expected it to. And we've always tried to build our software in a way that it's intuitive. We like to say people should look at and go, things are where you think they should be, or things work the way you think they should work. And so this is actually, just the last week has been challenging, but extremely fun too, because it's showing you, you can sit in an office and surmise what people need and how they're going to use it. But when the rubber hits the road, it's really interesting to see, and that forces us to get better and to improve. So.
Right. And the whole product, Andy, I remember you were telling me it has been just a culmination of requests, of actual feedback from users of the product, right, who have said, oh, it'd be great if it could do this. And that's still a core very much of iFlightPlanner, right?
It absolutely is, and it always will be. Whenever we sit down as a team and have a development planning meeting, we take all of the emails, the forum posts that we get, and we shape what the next round of development is going to look like, and essentially prioritize each new feature based on the amount of feedback that one is getting. And so, we, like John was saying, we could sit in the office, sit in a bubble and say, this is what we think we should do next. This is what we think makes the most sense. But if that's not going to meet the pilots or the members with what they need, then what are we really doing here? So we put a lot of emphasis on that process and allow that to drive what new enhancement or tweak or feature that we add next.
So speaking about how iFlightPlanner is very much inspired, and a lot of the features that are in there come from requests from members and users of the product. One of the things that we've been hearing a lot since we've launched is the EFB integration. The legacy product could integrate or work with, at some level, some of the different EFBs out there. And I know that's something you guys are giving a little thought to. So fill us a little bit on what maybe the plans for the future hold.
Sure, certainly. And yes, as we discussed, member feedback really drives what we do and what our priorities are. And as we also discussed, having been, really the first to introduce the iPad or the web to iPad integration, we've tried to create that synchronization. And so for members who decide to upgrade with their AOPA member exclusive pricing to our core and premium editions, they have the ability for their flight plans to download, and all of their account data for that matter, to download into our iPad and our iPhone apps. But we also know through member feedback that not everybody is an Apple user, and so we're cautious about that. And while it's a challenge for us to create the functionally same software on 3 different platforms, the web, iOS, and Android, and that's very resource intensive, we know that there are a lot of members that would like to have an Android capability or want to use a different app on their iOS devices than what we offer for various reasons. And so we try and deliver a product that works for everybody in terms of a pilot. You can never do that perfectly, but we'll certainly try. So what we're offering is, and what we'll be introducing soon, is really what we're calling a bring your own EFB program. So if you prefer to use one on Android, we encourage you to reach out to the developer of that and let them know to reach out to us at appsupport@iflightplanner.com. If there's a different iOS device, we'll be allowing you to push your flight plan once it's downloaded from the cloud into iFlightPlanner for iPad or iPhone into your favorite EFB. So we want to create the flexibility that pilots can use what device works best for them, not just pigeonhole them into one single device.
Well, very good, guys. Tell us just a little bit about, we'll put on the link on the screen here for people to access as far as how getting to the flight planner, AOPA.org/iFlightPlanner. If you put that into your browser, any of your modern browsers will work just fine, and you'll end up there. For the first time people do go in, though, it's important to understand and talk a little bit about the John, you may handle this as far as the migration of all the data we have out of the legacy system. I know we handed that off to you as a quite sizable chunk of data that we provided you, but people should be able to see all of their flight plans and all of that. So tell us a little bit about all the data that we brought in.
Sure. First and foremost, you never, when you're importing data from an old system, you never quite know what you're going to get. So when you guys sent me the package of data, it's always a first experience to take a peek and go, okay, are we in the neighborhood here, or are we doing some serious data translation? And there was quite a bit of agreement, which is good, and that was certainly helpful. But there was also quite a lot of data too, and there's always going to be interesting little anomalies in people's data, and in terms of transferring that over and making sure that it ends up in the right bucket. So, but that was a huge part of it from literally moment one when we started talking with AOPA about this was, how do we make this transition from the previous planner to the new one as seamless as possible? And step one of that is, well, users have to have their data from before. No matter whether you use the planner once or 1,000 times, you never are going to ask somebody to recreate that data. That's just a really showstopper for anything like this. And so, acquiring from that data from you early enough that we had a chance to test it and make sure that we could import that into our systems and our formats was great. And then we were able to certainly right up until the last minute, hold off importing that into our systems so that we brought as much of the existing user data over as possible.
Right. Yeah, and I think that's important. It was certainly a lot of information there to bring over. And there's a little bit of work for users to do as far as lining up and matching aircraft profiles to the ones in your database. But when I did it, I think I had 30 aircraft, and I'm sure that's not typical of the average user, but I do a lot of testing, so I have different aircraft that I was using. But it's a very seamless process. I think you did a great job there.
I can tell you, it's real quick on that. Yeah, 30 was definitely well out of the norm in terms of that. And I just want to touch on the aircraft model piece too, though, because I know we've had some people contact us, and that's been a piece that's kind of tripped up some people. And so the reason we do that, and just to kind of give you some more company history, is that from day one, when we decided we want this to be a comprehensive product, that meant building out an aircraft database, an aircraft model database that would really be useful to the user. And so what we do on that is every model that's in our database has come from the FAA type certificate data sheets. I guess not including experimentals or home builds that don't have a TCDS entry, but that includes base weight and balance data. So if you upgrade to iFlightPlanner Premium, you'll have your weight and balance calculator, and the base configuration of that aircraft is there, and then you can customize it to yours. That ensures that your wake turbulence category and your ICAO aircraft code are correct behind the scenes, because we've verified all of those against the official ICAO database. So while that's a step that has tripped up a couple people, and we always try to avoid those type of steps in a transition like this, it was necessary, and it helps. We want the listeners to know and the members to know that that's really to help improve the quality of their data and the quality of their flight planning experience.
Right. Yeah, that's a very good point. Very good point. Okay, so Andy, tell us a little bit about self-help. We're going to do this, plan this live stream, and we'll dig a little bit deeper. But until then, how do people, if they have questions about it, how do they, sort of access the help that we have in the system?
Sure. Yeah. So when a member is in the flight planning interface, once they click that flight planner home button, or even after finishing a planning session, they're always directed back to that My Account homepage. And right in the center of the nav bar, right at the top, you'll see a tab that says Help. When you click on that, you're going to have a couple of options. One, there's a comprehensive user guide in there that literally walks through step by step every feature that's in AOPA, the new AOPA flight planner. And from there, a user or a member could literally walk through step by step and get a full tutorial. Beyond that, we've got a number of YouTube videos that are on the AOPA Live YouTube channel that walk through each of those steps. So while reading and seeing those in action are two different things, we see that that's been a really helpful tool. And then ultimately, we make it really accessible to contact the Pilot Information Center at AOPA. We know, Eric, you and your team have a tremendous amount of experience, not just with the flight planning platform, but just aviation in general. And being able to make that resource available and readily accessible to the members was really important. So members that do have some self-help questions, they can access it through that help tab. And if there's anything that's not covered, they can obviously access that through the PIC.
Good point. Yeah, and we have received a lot of great feedback. So I think that stands to, a mature product that was thought through. Some of the feedback people have just wrote us and said, thank you, this is a great choice. People like sectional charts. That's always been a long-standing thing with the legacy planner. Important to note, the legacy planner was built before there were digital sectional charts. So it was very, what we call data-driven maps or charts. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in the live stream, just to give people a little bit of a history on that without dwelling on the past. But anything else before we wind this down? Any other points we might have missed?
I think we covered a lot here. I mean, like you said, we're certainly going to be able to dive into more detail when we do the live stream and some more how-to videos. But really just want to encourage and thank the membership to reach out to us if they have an idea for a new feature, if they're running into a speed bump on how to use something that may be new from the legacy planner. Allow us to help. That's what we're here for from the iFlightPlanner crew side of things. That's what the AOPA PIC is there for. We want to make this the best flight planning experience that a member can have. And so we really encourage those open lines of communication. And like I said, hope members will use it.
Excellent, excellent. Well said. Okay, well, keep check back with us about the live stream. We will have more information as that develops. We're working out the technology parts of that now, being fully remote, but we'll get that ironed out and get that up there for you, and make sure we have plenty of time to communicate that out. Other than that, Andy, John, thank you so much for spending a few minutes with me today.
Thanks, Eric.
Fantastic. Thanks, Eric.